Hello everybody, I'm going to talk today about something that I get asked about a lot, and there's a lot of discussion about it, and that is, what is my real voice and is it okay to impersonate singers? The way we learn to talk is through impersonation, and often you'll find that families like mothers and daughters or fathers and sons, they'll have the same accent obviously, but they'll also have the same tone in their voice, like the same tonal quality. Now that could be to do with genetics, so the way their throat is physically built, or like the size of the vocal cords. They might inherit like the facial features from the mother, so the voice comes out sounding kind of with the same tone. So I moved away from my area of origin about 20 years ago, and so my accent has changed, but the tone of voice that I speak with is still the same as my mum's, as is my sister's, right? And it's like, well, is that because we learned to talk by mimicking our mum, or is it because our noses and faces kind of built the same, and that's the tonal quality that face and that nose produces, right? But then there are ways of making different sounds that sound completely different in tonal quality. But I think you kind of have like a bass, you have a bass singing voice and a bass speaking voice, and then from there you can do different accents, different tones, different things, changing the different variables so that you get a different sound, but quite often it still sounds like you. An example of where it would completely move away from that would be, say, if somebody's really, really good at impressions and you're like, God, that just sounds exactly like that person. It doesn't sound like you at all. So they've done an impression, they've done something, they've changed the tone of their voice so much that it no longer sounds like their sort of original tone, okay? So I think with singing, you don't want to go too far in that direction to where there's absolutely no relationship anymore with your speaking voice or your speaking tone. But having said that, you can definitely branch out and do different impersonations and impressions, which is, for want of a better word, matching different tonal qualities that you hear, but with a little bit of you mixed in, so it's still you. So, all right, me and my student the other week, we were discussing this, and he finds doing impressions and copying the best thing for him to kind of get into the right sort of tone that he wants. And I found, I don't know if you're English, if you're from the UK, if you're from the UK and you're over a certain age, you'll probably remember this being on the BBC. It's Perfect Day, the song by Lou Reed. I think they did it for like Comic Relief or something like that, and they got together a whole bunch of famous singers and they all sang a line each. And I remember when it would come on, I would sing the whole song but in the different voices, right? And some of the voices I could actually pull off quite well, and then others I couldn't. So for me, it's hard for me to do a male voice because I'm simply not built that way. My vocal cords are simply not big enough, right? But so the male voice, right, even though it's not going to come out sounding male, I can still kind of try and do a close match impression, and something different to my own voice or something different tonally comes out anyway. So it's good to try and do impressions, not to sound exactly like that person, but to do what they're doing, right? And figure out what they're doing. So if we have a look at this, a little portion of this song, I'm still gonna get a copyright strike, hopefully not. Just a perfect day. That's Lou Reed, the original singer. Just a perfect day, just a perfect day. It's kind of it's got R quality. Like, I invite you to try it. It's like all here, right? If I started suddenly singing like that, it's gonna sound kind of not like me. So it would have to become a habit, and then it would sound like me. Get that voice first, and then try singing either like some more of this song or like a completely different song. And like, you can feel how that voice feels on you, can kind of try the voice on, right? So what's next? And then later, when it gets dark. So similar but more breathy, Bono, right? And it's too low for me, this, but it's kind of like, and then later, and then later. Let me go up an octave. And then later, when it gets dark, it's that, See, I never sing like that, but I could do if I wanted to do that sort of genre, like maybe like a kind of grungy genre. So obviously I do that. I don't sound like Bono, but I'm kind of doing what he does. So it's giving myself a different experience with my voice. And what's next? We go home. We go home. We go home. Oh, oh. It's breathy again. It's like got cry to it and crackle, you know? Try it. How does it sound on you? Just a perfect day. Iconic voice. Just a perfect day. Just a perfect day. It sounds quite prim and proper. Again, it's too low. Just a perfect day. Just a perfect day. So my tone is nothing like Bowie's, so it's not going to come out like that. But just trying to do that did something different again to my voice, you know? Feed animals in the zoo. Feed animals in the zoo. I remember being able to do that one when I was a kid. Feed animals in the zoo. Oh, it's all there behind the nose. Oh, oh, oh. Then later, I'm moving to. And then later. And then later. Loads of R quality on that one. And then later, I'm moving to. And then home. They all have their kind of cadence as well, you know. And then later, I like singing like that, it's quite satisfying. And then home. Home. Hanging on to the M. Such a day. A very head voicey operatic sound. I'm glad I spent it with you. Sometimes I use tones like that on high notes, depending on what I'm singing. Again, if you're a guy doing an impression of that, it's not going to sound anything like that, but it's still going to be operatic, so you get the experience of singing operatically. And what does that mean? It's the same thing as, okay, so we're going to darken everything, we're going to lower the larynx, we're going to pronounce all of the words with just the 5 Italian vowels, the open vowels. We're going to add in a steady kind of vibrato. It's going to feel more head voicey than usual. Or you can say, do an impersonation of an opera singer, or you can just pull up an opera singer and do an impersonation. All of those things happen. Like, other things happen too, like the soft palate opens, the tongue retracts a little bit. Like, it's ways of holding your body, doing things with your body, changing the variables, changing the tongue posture, you know, changing the area of resonance, adding in air and whine and cry and character, and singing on different weights and different compressions. And it's like, that's your voice doing that. Just because you're doing an impression, it's just your voice, but it's doing something different to what it normally does. That used to be one of my favourites. Oh, such a perfect day. Very staccato. And obviously in a particular accent, like the Soli accent, you know, so pronouncing words differently. He's got like a rich voice. Oh, such a perfect day. Such a perfect day. And again, I don't have the physiology for that particular like smoky tone there, but you know, it depends on your vocal cords and the shape of things going on. You know, if you have like just a slight variation, like for example, even when you have a cold, which I do at the minute, your nose is blocked, your voice sounds different, you know, it moves into a different area. You just keep me hanging on. That sort of singing. You just keep me hanging on. Keep me hanging on. See, I try and do an impression of a male opera singer. You can still tell I'm female, but I'm giving myself the experience of lowering the larynx to its very depth and singing on a very heavy weight with like lots of richness in the tone. It might sound good on you. You might just want to use it to warm the voice up. Like, it's good to be able to do different things. Just a perfect day. A lower tone. So if I do an impression of her, I'm gonna have to go really low larynx again. Just a perfect day, and it's what they call overdrive in CVT, which means it's what I call the football chant voice. So all of the vowels are open and in the mouth. Just a perfect day, right there in the mouth. Again, that's not something that I do generally. I do that on the high notes sometimes. But, you know, she is built differently to me. I'd say she's a contralto, possibly. So she's not like singing down the way I have to do to get that tone, right? But it's like, why not try it and see what has to happen in your body to get as close to that sound as you can. That's that honky sound again. This is what I'm hearing anyway. Problems all left alone. Oh, reminds me of Celine Dion a little bit, right? Or Edith Piaf. Problems all left alone. It's quite a nice tone, I think. We can do it on our own. Pharyngally. We can do it on our own. We can do it on our own. Smoky, pharyngally, light compression, feels head voicey but toppy rather than low larynx, you know? It's such fun. It's such fun. We won't talk about that one. Just a perfect day. Just a perfect day. Who's that? Is it Joe Cocker? That's more about the accent, you know. Just a perfect day. Again, I'm not going to start doing that because people are going to be like, where are you from? And then they'll hear my speaking voice, and it's just such a mismatch. But depending on where you come from, it might not be a mismatch for you. It's very croonery, I think. David Bowie is quite croonery, very light. You make me forget myself. Like very gentle. I thought I was someone else. I thought I thought I was someone else. To me, that sounds like very balanced, quite classical.
Someone good.
Speechy.
Such a perfect day.
As the guy out the lightning seeds sings with a Liverpudlian accent. Such a perfect day. Such a perfect day. Why not? That was my favourite one when I was little, when this used to come on the TV. I'm glad I spent it with you. Like edge vowels, like it, like lots of I. I'm glad I spent it with you. Like very toppy, very cool. That one I would use. And when I first started singing it in the soul genre, I did impersonations of soul singers. And at first, it felt like I was doing an impersonation, but now it doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh, that's definitely part of my voice. That's just how I sing soul. But it started with impersonating people like this, and you know, Aretha Franklin, and that sort of like pharyngally toppy sound with those different shaped vowels, you know. Love that. Such a perfect day. They got that like dramatic, like overly dramatized, like smokiness, openness, like what do you call it, breathiness. Keep me hanging on. Which, you know, suits many genres. I think she sounds like Celine Dion. You just keep me hanging on. It's like up here somewhere, you know.
You're going to read just what you sow.
You're going to read. I think he's got like a northern accent like mine. You're going to reap just what you sow. Just in your speaking accent, you know. Reap, reap.
You're going to read just what you sow.
Oh, a woman singing in that octave. Just what you sow. And then her voice runs out there. Cool though, right? It's cool. Low larynx. You're going to reap just what you sow, yeah. I don't want to do it loud. People in the house. See that, to me, that is very good technique. Oh, you're going to reap just what you sow. It's kind of, I call it chewy singing. It just feels like making a lot of it in the throat and the mouth, you know? So, some of those singers will be singing quite naturally, i.e. they're not lowering the larynx too much, they're not putting the voice into like a different spot too much from where they're speaking, okay? Not doing very much different to what they would be doing when they were talking. You know, especially the ones who are singing in their actual accents as well. But then there'll be other singers who kind of are shifting things around, manipulating the voice a little bit, and you'll hear the speaking voice and you'll think, oh, you know, I didn't know that they spoke like that, like they sound different when they're singing. But it's never like too much, you know. So if you have to go to the extreme to make those noises, you know, it's like, well, you could do that as like an exercise to like bring some of it into the speaking voice if you like that tone. For example, I always, if people have like a very ungrounded voice and it's not connected in, they kind of sing up here somewhere and the voice isn't connected into the body. I have them do like digging in low larynx stuff like like male opera sounding stuff. Not because we're trying to sound like a male opera singer. This is one like women, that's the example I'm using here. But because it grounds it into the body, so it's like, okay, and you found that, so you can use some of that in the singing voice just to ground it in and add some like richer tones and power. So like, just, you know, it's not like we're trying to copy a singer to the extent where we actually sound like them, but it's like, well, you get to, if you're doing an impersonation, each impersonation comes with a set of boundaries. It's like, this is how it's supposed to sound. If you copy the sound, whatever happens in the body then, wherever the tongue position then is, whatever shape the vowels are, like, that's the way it is. So you're experiencing your own voice doing those different things. And I think it's a very, very valuable thing to do, is to copy other people, like, as an exercise, as fun, you know, play. Like, you'll probably find that there are singers that are kind of similar to you anyway, and you can do like a really convincing impression of them. And there'll be singers who are so different to you, you'll do an impression of them and it sounds like you're doing a voice. But then there'll be other times where you can do impersonations and it sounds really good, you know, so it is really good to experiment. Because, you know, unless you're training operatically, the colour palette in your voice, the potential and what it can do, it's not just like, this is the way, this is the correct way, and this is how you're going to sound. There's lots of different options and variables that you can change. If you've been blessed with an amazing tone, speaking tone, and you can kind of just speak and sing and speak and sing, and they're both exactly the same, but your singing voice sounds great, you know. An example of that would be somebody like James Brown. Like, he speaks and sings, you don't know where his speaking voice ends and his singing voice begins, in a sense, right? And his tone is amazing. There's no need for him to change anything. But a lot of us, we haven't been blessed with a special tone, but there are ways of, you can unlock the tonal potential just by playing around and doing a few impersonations. So I invite you to have a go at some different impressions and, you know, see what you like, try things on, try some voices on, and then you come to sing your songs, you know, you could think, actually, this passage here, or this note here, I'm kind of gonna just go for it in a way that maybe Elton John would do. And then it should come out sounding all rich with plenty of R quality, you know? Or it might not fit in, but it's good to just experiment. Thank you for listening. Bye.